The small fleet of alien ships drifted through the violet clouds of Terra Nova's atmosphere. This planet was new, untouched, and full of possibilities. Each species on the mission had its own idea of what a settlement should look like. Some imagined towering fortresses. Others preferred simple underground burrows. But all agreed on one rule. Survival came first. The Drakkar, a reptilian species with sharp claws and armored skin, landed first. They moved quickly, scanning the ground for safe spots. Within hours, they had built a series of spiked domes, reinforced with stone and alien metals. They made no effort to make the space comfortable. Everything was practical, meant to defend against storms, predators, or anything unexpected. Nearby, the Olin, a jelly-like race that shimmered in the sunlight, floated gently above the ground. They created translucent bubble-like pods, suspended by invisible energy fields. Their homes were beautiful, almost like floating art, but fragile. They worked carefully, weaving patterns that were meant to last but required constant attention. The Kriti, small bird-like beings with multiple wings, dug tunnels into the soil. They built long, winding corridors with many chambers, each serving a specific purpose: sleeping, storing food, and social gatherings. Their tunnels were efficient and safe, but dark and narrow. All the species worked with focus, some in competition, others quietly observing one another. The planet was strange, its plants glowing faintly at night and its soil almost soft as clay. The aliens were fascinated yet anxious. Every day could bring a sudden rainstorm, strong winds, or even the strange creatures glimpsed at the edge of the forests. And then the humans arrived. Humans came slowly, landing a few ships far from the main colonies. Unlike the other species, they did not rush. No alarms sounded, no energy shields activated. Instead, humans carried with them strange equipment. One ship held a large foldable recliner. Another carried a smoker that emitted gentle clouds of fragrant smoke. The last carried what appeared to be a small mobile library full of books and digital tablets. The aliens stopped and stared. "What are they doing?" hissed a Drakkar guard. "They are humans," said a Kriti scout, her eyes wide. "I heard stories, but I never expected this." Humans did not rush to build walls or shelters. They unfolded the recliner, placed it under the soft glow of a nearby tree, and began to sit. A few humans opened books and started reading. Others worked on the smoker, preparing small pieces of food. The humans spoke to one another, laughing quietly and smiling. "What good is this?" a Drakkar asked aloud. "They are not building domes or digging tunnels. They are sitting." An Olin floated closer, curious. "Perhaps it is a ritual or a meditation practice." One of the humans, a tall woman with brown hair tied back, noticed the observers. She smiled warmly. "Hello? Don't worry, we'll take care of ourselves. You don't need to help." The aliens exchanged confused glances. Even the Kriti, usually quick to adapt, paused. The humans seemed almost fearless, as if danger itself had no power over them. By nightfall, the aliens had finished their first day of building. The Drakkar domes were sturdy but cold. The Olin pods shimmered beautifully but required constant attention. The Kriti tunnels were safe but dim and narrow. And the humans? They had their recliner under the tree, a small fire gently smoking, food in the smoker, and the library cart neatly arranged nearby. The aliens murmured among themselves. "They cannot survive like that," said one Drakkar. "They are too exposed. The storms will destroy them." Humans, meanwhile, had already begun their evening routines. One man flipped through a book while another basted meat over the smoker. A child, barely 7 years old, climbed into the recliner and waved at the stars. Humans laughed quietly, talking about what they read, what they saw during the day, and the stories of other worlds. "Why are they not afraid?" whispered a young Olin, its gelatinous body glowing faintly. "They are humans," said the scout. "I do not understand them, but perhaps they think differently." Over the next few days, the humans continued their routine. They observed the planet carefully, noting the weather patterns, the plants, and the small animals. While other species worked frantically to build ever-safer shelters, humans focused on comfort, learning, and sharing knowledge. Other aliens began to notice small differences. The humans never seemed stressed. Their food was simple but smelled wonderful, attracting curious animals and aliens alike. Children played near the human area, laughing and learning without fear. Adults worked together calmly, solving problems through discussion rather than command. One day, a small storm approached. The wind howled and rain poured over the alien settlements. Drakkar domes shuddered under the wind, some leaking water. Olin pods needed constant adjustment, and Creedy tunnels began to flood in places. The humans' area, however, stayed mostly dry. The recliner was under a sturdy canopy. The smoker's smoke kept food warm and dry. Books were protected in waterproof cases. Humans sat calmly, sipping warm drinks and reading aloud to one another. Their laughter and conversation seemed almost to defy the storm. Aliens watched in silence. "How?" one Drakkar whispered. "They are not afraid, yet they are fine." "They are humans," repeated the scout, shaking her head. "It is not just luck. They prepare in ways we do not understand. They think ahead, not just for survival, but for comfort and learning." That night, humans shared their first meal with a few curious aliens who dared approach. The smoker released a gentle aroma, and everyone ate together. Humans explained simple cooking methods and shared stories from Earth, from mountains and rivers to cities and libraries. Aliens listened, fascinated. The humans did not lecture or demand respect. They shared with patience and care. By the end of the week, something remarkable had begun to happen. Some aliens, initially skeptical, started imitating small human practices. A Creedy family hung a small cloth to shield their sleeping chamber from rain. An Olin created a small floating seat to rest while tending their pods. Even a few Drakkar tried simple cooking methods, finding that warm, smoked food was enjoyable. Humans did not demand recognition. They continued their routines, observing, reading, cooking, and relaxing. Yet slowly they were changing the way aliens thought about life on Terra Nova. Survival was important, yes, but perhaps there was more to living than simply enduring storms and hunger. By the end of the first month, Terra Nova's settlers were beginning to notice a strange pattern. The humans were healthy, happy, and calm, despite building nothing that seemed necessary. Other species' shelters were strong but harsh, efficient but tiring. Humans thrived by combining preparation with enjoyment. They understood something the aliens had not yet grasped. Comfort and curiosity were tools for survival, not weaknesses. Late one night, as the violet sky shimmered with twin moons, a young Drakkar named Vaktal approached the human area. He had watched for weeks, puzzled and curious. He found a human child reading aloud in the recliner while an adult tended the smoker. The aromas, the calm voices, the soft glow of the lanterns, it was unlike anything he had experienced. "Why do you sit while the storms come?" Vaktal asked, almost in disbelief. The human adult looked up, smiling warmly. "We prepare carefully, and then we enjoy life while we can. It helps us see clearly, think clearly, and stay strong. Survival is important, but so is living." Vaktal blinked. He had no answer. He had always thought survival meant working tirelessly, fortifying walls and staying alert. And yet here were humans, sitting, eating, reading, and they seemed stronger in spirit than anyone else he had met. As the wind howled outside, Voktal realized something profound. Humans did not fear storms because they understood balance. They balanced work and rest, preparation and enjoyment, survival and curiosity. That balance was their strength. And so the first month ended with a quiet truth settling among the alien colonies. Humans were different. Not in weapons, not in domes, not in tunnels, but in the way they lived. And that difference, subtle yet powerful, would change everything on Terra Nova. Little did the aliens know, the recliner, the smoker, and the library were only the beginning. Humans had arrived not just to survive, but to teach the galaxy a new way to live. The first storm had passed, and Terra Nova's skies cleared. The violet clouds slowly drifted away, leaving a bright sun that warmed the planet's strange, glowing plants. For most alien species, the storm had been a harsh reminder of the importance of survival. Domes leaked, pods wavered, tunnels flooded. But the humans' area had survived almost untouched. Now, a few weeks later, the aliens began to notice more than just human resilience. They noticed how humans lived, and it puzzled them. Each morning, the humans followed a calm routine. One by one, they would leave their shelters, not to rush into work or repairs, but to observe the planet. They walked slowly, examining plants, listening to birds, and sometimes just sitting on the soft grass. The recliner was brought out whenever possible, even under the open sky, and children climbed onto it, giggling as adults read stories aloud. The human's smoker always releasing. Gentle smoke had become a small gathering place. The smell of cooked food floated over the settlement, inviting curious aliens to taste it. Humans offered samples, explaining how to prepare meals without fire or harsh chemicals. The food was simple yet surprisingly nutritious, and even picky. Alien eaters found themselves enjoying it. The aliens watched silently. Many whispered to one another. They seem so calm. They do not rush like us. They do not panic over storms. They eat slowly, enjoy the sun, and talk with their children. How can this help them survive? A young Cretie who had spent days peering through her tunnels to watch humans finally spoke aloud. I think they are different. Not weaker, not stronger. Different. The Drakkar leader, Voktal, had begun to notice the same thing. He had watched the humans for nearly a month now. Their calmness, their patience, their laughter, it seemed unnatural, almost as if they were immune to fear. And yet, every day, they grew stronger, healthier, and happier. One day, a small group of humans invited a few curious aliens to their smoker. The aliens hesitated at first, unsure if this was a trick or a danger, but the humans were gentle. They showed how to light the smoker safely, how to prepare simple vegetables and meat substitutes, and even how to clean the area afterward. "It smells amazing," whispered an Olin, hovering close. "Try it," said a human, smiling. "It is meant to be shared." When the aliens tasted the food, they were surprised. The flavors were mild, yet satisfying. Warmth spread through their bodies, and for the first time they felt relaxed after a meal instead of restless and alert. The humans did not lecture or boast. They simply shared knowledge. Soon, more aliens came to watch the humans read from their library. It was a strange collection. Books about other planets, Earth history, mathematics, stories of courage, and tales of strange animals. Some were written on pages, others stored digitally, but all were meant to teach and inspire. "You read for pleasure?" an Olin asked, its body glowing brighter than usual. The human smiled. "Yes, and for learning. Stories teach us lessons. Knowledge is as important as shelter or food. It prepares us for life, not just for survival." The aliens exchanged puzzled glances. They had never considered this. Their societies valued strength, efficiency, and defense. But the humans valued comfort, learning, and curiosity. And somehow it made them stronger in ways the aliens could not yet understand. Over the next week, small changes began to appear in alien settlements. A Creedy tunnel now had a small area with soft moss for resting. Some Olin pods had floating seats where the young could relax. Even the Drac car, cautious and proud, started experimenting with simple cooking methods inspired by the humans. The humans continued their calm routines. Each day, they observed the planet, read books, shared stories, cooked food, and relaxed. They spoke of Earth and other worlds, of inventions, challenges, and achievements. They asked aliens about their own experiences and listened with genuine interest. One evening, as the twin moons rose, humans gathered under the largest tree in their area. Children played, adults read aloud, and a soft wind carried the smell of smoked food. A young Creedy hovered nearby, watching the humans interact. "Why are they so happy?" the Creedy whispered to Voktal. Voktal had come to sit at a distance, observing. "It is not just happiness," he replied slowly. "It is balance. They prepare carefully for danger, but they also prepare for life. They value both survival and living. That is why they can remain calm in storms. That is why they grow stronger while others grow tired." The Creedy blinked. "Can we do that?" Voktal did not answer. He was beginning to understand that humans were teaching lessons, without saying a word. Their way of living was a culture of comfort, and it was more powerful than the most fortified dome or tunnel. As the weeks passed, humans introduced small innovations that changed how aliens approached daily life. They demonstrated ways to store food safely while keeping it accessible, how to make simple furniture from local materials, and how to read the stars to predict weather changes. Each lesson was simple, yet effective. One day, a minor challenge arrived. A small pack of Terra Nova's local animals wandered too close to alien shelters. Some species panicked, running to defensive positions or trying to scare them away. But the humans approached calmly, observing the creatures. They used small amounts of smoked food to guide the animals away from their settlements. The aliens were amazed. "They do not fight, yet they solve the problem," whispered a young Olin. "How is this possible?" Voktal nodded slowly. "Humans see more than the danger. They see the solution. They remain calm and think clearly. That is their strength." By now, many aliens had started visiting the human area daily. They were curious, eager to learn, and slowly they were beginning to imitate human practices. Small gardens appeared near tunnels and pods. Comfortable resting areas were created near workstations. Even meals were shared more peacefully, with a focus on flavor and nutrition rather than just efficiency. The humans never demanded respect. They did not boast of their successes. They simply continued to live their way, quietly teaching others, through action. And that action was changing the colony. One evening, Voktal walked among the humans. A young human boy handed him a small piece of smoked vegetable. "Try it," the boy said with a grin. "It's better than anything you've tasted before." Voktal took it cautiously, then bit carefully. Warmth and flavor spread through him. He had to admit, it was delicious. "You see," the boy said, "food is more than survival. It is enjoyment. And when you enjoy life, you become stronger in ways you cannot measure." Voktal nodded silently, feeling something new. Respect, curiosity, even admiration. He had spent his life believing that strength was physical and that fear could be overcome with force. But humans had shown him another kind of strength: calmness, curiosity, and care for life itself. As night fell, the humans lit small lanterns around their area. The smoke from the smoker curled gently into the air, carrying the smell of warmth and home. Aliens from other species gathered nearby, some watching, some quietly participating. The humans read aloud stories from their library, tales of Earth, space, and strange adventures. Everyone listened. The sound of laughter, voices, and calm conversation filled the night. And slowly, something remarkable happened. The alien children began to read their own books, inspired by the humans. Parents started spending more time with their young, teaching, sharing, and caring. Communities began to change. Survival alone was no longer enough. Life itself had become something to nurture, to enjoy, and to grow within. By the end of the second month, the humans' influence was undeniable. The aliens had started a transformation without even realizing it. They built not just shelters, but places to live fully. They learned that strength came not just from walls, domes, or tunnels, but from calmness, shared meals, learning, and comfort. The humans remained humble. They continued their simple routines, observing, reading, cooking, and sharing. They did not force change. They simply lived, and through their way of life, they taught the aliens the first lessons of a new culture. That comfort, curiosity, and balance were as essential as any defense or dome. Vaktal stood at a distance, watching the humans. The twin moons reflected in his eyes as he whispered quietly to himself, "Perhaps this is the future. Not the strongest walls or the largest domes, but the calmest hearts, the clearest minds, and the courage to enjoy life even in a strange world." Terra Nova was no longer a quiet planet. Weeks of human presence had begun to ripple through the alien colonies. The Drakkar domes, once symbols of invincibility, now looked rigid and cold. The Olin pods shimmered beautifully, but seemed lonely, without spaces for rest and shared stories. The Creedy tunnels were functional but dim, lacking warmth or comfort. The humans, meanwhile, continued their daily routines. Their recliner remained under the tree, perfectly positioned to catch sunlight. In the morning, their smoker released the aroma of simple yet nourishing food, and the library, carefully organized, drew the attention of aliens eager to learn. For a while it seemed that the humans' influence was subtle. They did not command respect. They did not demand that aliens change their habits. And yet, slowly, others were watching, learning, and trying new ways of living. Then, one morning, disaster struck. A sudden storm swept across the region, far larger and more violent than any the settlers had encountered before. Winds tore across the land, bending trees and lifting smaller shelters off the ground. Torrential rain poured in sheets, flooding tunnels, weakening domes, and shaking pods. In the Drakkar settlement, alarms rang. Domes shuddered. Water leaked through tiny cracks. Energy fields in the Olin pods flickered and almost failed. The Creedy tunnels were partially submerged. Panic spread. The aliens had built for survival, but the storm was testing them in ways they had not predicted. Meanwhile, the humans remained calm. Their recliner was protected by a sturdy canopy. The smoker kept food dry and warm. Books in the library were stored in waterproof cases. Humans moved slowly, deliberately, checking their area while talking quietly to one another. "Why are they not running?" whispered a young Olin, hovering near a flooded pod. "They prepared," Vaktal said, his voice low but steady. "Not just for the obvious dangers, but for all possibilities. They understand life in a way we do not." Aliens peeked from their shelters, watching humans remain calm while their own settlements struggled. Some felt frustration, others felt curiosity. How could beings so small and seemingly unarmed survive where the strongest species barely managed? One human, a tall man with silver hair, carried a basket of food through the wind and rain. He offered it to a few soaked aliens who had dared to approach. "Here," he said with a smile. "You'll need energy to think clearly." The aliens hesitated, but hunger and trust overcame fear. They accepted the food. As they ate, warmth spread through their bodies. Their minds, for the first time in hours, felt calm. The storm raged for 2 full days. Domes collapsed partially. Pods wobbled. Tunnels flooded further. And yet, the humans' area suffered only minor inconvenience. Their approach, combining careful preparation with calm living, kept them safe. By the second night, a small group of alien leaders gathered. Near the human settlement, Voktal, the Drakkar leader, stood with a few Olin and Kriti elders. They had seen enough. "How?" one Olin asked, her voice trembling. "Your area is almost untouched. How is this possible?" A human woman holding a waterproof book smiled gently. "We plan for life, not just survival. We watch, prepare, and adapt. And while we prepare, we remember to enjoy the small things, comfort, learning, and food. That balance is our strength." Voktal nodded. "I have observed this, and I see the truth. Strength is not only in walls, domes, or tunnels. Strength is in calmness, foresight, and creativity." The aliens watched carefully as humans continued their routines despite the storm. Children played safely in protected areas. Adults tended the smoker and library, occasionally moving books to dry spots. Even in danger, humans remained calm, sharing, observing, and planning. After the storm passed, the alien leaders inspected their settlements. Some domes were cracked. Some tunnels had partially collapsed. Olin pods needed constant repairs. And yet, their occupants were alive. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived. This is remarkable," muttered an Olin elder. "They are not just surviving, they are teaching us something without saying a word." The following weeks became a turning point. Aliens began to imitate human practices more boldly. Drakkar dome builders added soft resting areas inside their domes. Olin created small floating seats near their pods. Kriti tunnels were widened, in some areas, and lined with soft moss for comfort. Meals were no longer rushed. Food was shared, cooked carefully, and enjoyed. The humans also began sharing knowledge more openly. In the evenings, they held informal gatherings under the largest tree near their recliner. Aliens from different species attended. Humans read stories aloud, told tales of Earth, and explained practical knowledge, simple techniques for building, cooking, and observing nature. One evening, a human girl read a story about rivers, mountains, and animals on Earth. Aliens listened with fascination. "What is this river?" asked a young Kriti. "It is a long, flowing waterway," the human explained. "It brings life to everything around it. People travel along it, fish in it, and enjoy its beauty. Sometimes the journey along the river is more important than the destination." The aliens were captivated. It was not just a story. It was a lesson. Life could be enjoyed while learning, exploring, and sharing. The humans' subtle influence spread further than anyone expected. A Drakkar engineer designed a dome with a small library inside. An Olin family created a communal kitchen for shared meals. Even Kriti children began copying human reading habits, bringing small books into the tunnels. Voktal observed all of this quietly. He had been skeptical at first, believing humans to be naive. But now, he understood that humans taught through action, calm observation, enjoyment of life, and careful planning. These were lessons no words could fully capture. One afternoon, a minor crisis appeared. A sudden fire broke out near the edge of the alien settlements. Panic spread quickly. Drakkar rushed to reinforce their domes. Olin pods wobbled. Kriti tunnels seemed unsafe. Humans, however, remained calm. They used simple techniques they had taught before: water management, wind observation, and safe guidance. They led animals away, checked their food supply, and helped aliens protect important areas. "What are they doing?" an Olin asked in awe. "They are not panicking," Voktal said. "They are thinking, planning, acting carefully. That is why they are successful." After the fire was controlled, aliens gathered near the humans once again. "Your ways, they work," admitted a Drakkar elder. "We see that now. You survive storms, floods, and fires, yet you remain calm. Your strength is in your mind, not only in your body or shelter." Humans smiled but said little. They had no desire for praise. They only lived as they had always done, calmly, thoughtfully, and with attention to comfort and learning. The next month, the transformation of the colony became visible. Alien settlements were changing. Domes were softened with resting areas and small libraries. Pods included floating spaces for rest and observation. Tunnels had wider chambers, communal kitchens, and reading corners. Meals were shared peacefully, with attention to flavor, nutrition, and enjoyment. The humans had done nothing aggressive. They had not demanded change. And yet, the aliens were adapting. The human approach, balance between survival and life itself, was spreading naturally. Voktal often sat near the human recliner, observing quietly. Children of multiple species climbed on the soft chair, laughing together. Adults prepared meals, discussed books, or simply watched the sky. "This is different," he whispered. "They survive not by force, not by fear, but by foresight and calm. And now, we are beginning to see the power of their ways." A human boy approached him, holding a small smoked fruit. "Try this," the boy said cheerfully. "It's simple, but it will give you energy and calm." Voktal took it cautiously. The warmth and flavor spread through him. He felt lighter, clearer, stronger in ways he could not measure. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You have taught me more than I realized." The human smiled. "We learn together. That is all." By the end of Part 3, it was clear that humans were no ordinary settlers. They were quietly reshaping Terra Nova, teaching the aliens not through orders, but through calm, thoughtful action. They had shown that survival was not enough. Life could be enjoyed, shared, and improved, and in doing so, one became stronger than any wall, dome, or tunnel could make them. Weeks passed, and Terra Nova was no longer just a planet of survival. Its alien settlers were beginning to understand that there was more to life than safety and efficiency. Humans, calm and persistent, were quietly showing the way. Each day, humans continued their routines. The recliner was set under the largest tree, catching the morning sun. The smoker released gentle waves of food aroma, drawing curious aliens from every corner of the settlements. The library was open all day, filled with books and devices that offered knowledge of faraway worlds, history, science, and stories of courage. Aliens from multiple species now visited daily. They asked questions, learned cooking methods, and practiced reading. Children especially were fascinated by human stories. They gathered under the tree, listening to tales of earth, rivers, mountains, animals, and people who had achieved incredible feats. One afternoon, a group of alien elders gathered near the humans' library. Voktal, the Drakkar leader, spoke. "First, you have changed much more than our shelters," he said quietly. "You have changed our thinking." The human woman smiled. "We do not want to force change. We only want to share what we know. We survive by preparing, but we live by learning and enjoying life. That is what makes us strong." The Olin elder, glowing faintly, nodded. "We have observed it. Our pods were beautiful but lonely. Our food was efficient but dull. Now we rest, eat, and learn together. It has made us happier, stronger, in ways we did not expect. Humans began teaching practical lessons that went beyond stories. They showed how to build resting areas inside domes and tunnels. They demonstrated simple ways to cook food without harming the environment. They taught how to share resources fairly, how to protect animals without fear, and how to use calm observation. To predict weather changes, the aliens watched closely. Slowly, they began to adopt these practices. Drakkar domes now had soft mats and small libraries. Olin pods had floating chairs where families could rest together. Creedy tunnels included communal kitchens and spaces where children could read or play. The humans also encouraged curiosity. They organized small exploration trips around the planet, teaching aliens to observe plants, animals, and terrain carefully. They explained how to take notes, sketch findings, and think about patterns. One day, a group of young Drakkar came to the humans with a problem. Their dome had started to crack near a water source, and they feared future storms might destroy it. "We do not know what to do," said one young Drakkar nervously. The human man smiled gently. "Let's observe first. What is causing the damage?" Together, humans and aliens examined the dome carefully. They noted the water flow, the materials, and the pressure points. Humans suggested simple adjustments, small reinforcements, redirection of water, and protective coverings. The young Drakkar followed the instructions, and within hours, the cracks were fixed. "This is amazing," said the Drakkar. "We could not have done this alone." "Of course," said the human. "Working together, observing carefully, and thinking clearly, these things make problems smaller and life safer." By now, alien children were learning not just to survive, but to think creatively. They experimented with building, cooking, and crafting in ways humans had shown them. They copied the calm, thoughtful behavior they observed every day. One evening, humans gathered under the tree for a reading session. Children of all species sat together, listening intently. The story was about explorers traveling across mountains, rivers, and deserts, facing challenges but also enjoying the beauty of their journey. A young Creedy whispered to a human girl, "Is this story real?" "Some of it," the girl said, smiling. "Some of it is lessons. Life is full of challenges, but it is also full of beauty. You can learn, enjoy, and grow at the same time." The aliens were learning slowly but surely. The culture of survival only was fading. Life on Terra Nova was beginning to include enjoyment, curiosity, and shared knowledge. Even leaders were changing. Vaktal had started organizing community meetings differently. Instead of issuing commands, he encouraged discussion. He allowed younger Drakkar to suggest ideas and asked them to think creatively. The Olin elders began sharing stories from their own species' history. The Creedy began organizing small communal events. One day, a new challenge appeared. A minor quake shook part of the settlements. Rocks tumbled, some structures shook, and small fires started. Panic could have spread quickly, but humans calmly moved among the settlements, guiding aliens to safety, helping to protect important resources, and showing how to contain small fires. Aliens watched in amazement. They had built the safest shelters, but in panic they would have struggled. Humans, calm and prepared, handled the situation efficiently and without fear. After the quake, Vaktal spoke again to the humans. "Your ways, they save lives not just because of preparation, but because of calm. Your strength is in thinking clearly when others panic." The human woman shook her head. "We do not claim strength. We only act as we know best. Calm observation, preparation, and learning from life, that is what we have found helpful." Aliens began copying this practice. Drakkar leaders taught their citizens to observe carefully before acting. Olin families monitored weather calmly. Creedy children learned to plan small tasks carefully rather than rushing. Humans also emphasized sharing knowledge. Their mobile library became a central hub for discussion, teaching, and creativity. Aliens brought their own books, data, and notes to contribute. Soon, the library was a true place of collaboration, where every species shared and learned. One human boy led a small demonstration. "Look at this plant," he said, holding a glowing leaf. "It changes color in sunlight. If we observe it carefully, we can predict when the sun is strongest and protect ourselves. Observation is powerful." The aliens watched closely. They began taking notes, drawing diagrams, and thinking in new ways. A culture of curiosity was growing. Terra Nova was changing, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Food, comfort, and learning were now valued equally with safety. Communities were becoming places of growth, laughter, and shared knowledge. Humans had shown that survival alone was not enough. Life was meant to be lived, shared, and enjoyed. Even small gestures made a difference. The humans offered simple games, music, and storytelling. Alien children laughed, parents smiled, and even the most serious Drakkar found joy in shared meals. The colony was becoming not just a place to live, but a home. One evening, under the twin moons, humans held a gathering. They had set up the recliner near the tree, the smoker gently releasing warmth and aroma, and the library open for reading. Aliens of all species joined. Some shared their stories, others listened, and everyone ate together. Vaktal watched quietly. He realized that humans had done something remarkable. Without weapons, without walls, without commands, they had created community, trust, and understanding. Aliens had learned that strength came not only from power, but from calmness, curiosity, and shared knowledge. This is more than survival," he whispered to himself. "Humans have shown us the way to truly live." By the end of Part 4, Terra Nova had transformed significantly. Alien settlements were safer, more comfortable, and full of life. Communities were stronger because they valued learning, sharing, and enjoying life, not just enduring it. Humans remained humble, continuing their routines of observing, cooking, reading, and sharing. They had not sought power or recognition, and yet they had quietly become the heart of Terra Nova, the guiding force of a new culture of life. The aliens now understood a simple truth. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength or speed, but because of their mind, heart, and spirit. And Terra Nova would never be the same again. Months had passed since the humans arrived on Terra Nova. The violet skies, twin moons, and glowing plants were now familiar to everyone. The alien settlers had faced storms, minor earthquakes, and curious animals. But the greatest transformation was not in the land, it was in the hearts and minds of the inhabitants. Human influence had spread quietly but thoroughly. Alien settlements were no longer just shelters. They had become homes. Drakkar domes included libraries, gardens, and resting areas. Olin pods had floating communal spaces where families gathered to talk, rest, and observe. Creedy tunnels were widened and lined with soft moss, communal kitchens, and reading corners. Life had become richer, calmer, and more meaningful. Yet the humans themselves remained humble. They continued their routines with quiet consistency. The recliner stayed under the largest tree, now a place where young aliens of all species played, read, or rested together. The smoker released comforting aromas daily, drawing creatures and settlers alike. And the library, carefully organized, was the hub of Terra Nova, filled with books, data, and stories from Earth and other worlds. One morning, Vaktal, the Drakkar leader, walked through the human area. Children climbed onto the recliner, laughing together. Adults prepared meals, discussed discoveries, and shared ideas. The air was calm, warm, and full of life. "I have never seen anything like this," he whispered. "They survive because they are careful, yes, but they thrive because they live fully, think clearly, and share openly. A human boy approached Voktal with a small plate of smoked fruit. "Try this," he said cheerfully. "It helps you think and feel strong." Voktal took it cautiously and smiled as the warmth and flavor spread through him. He realized something profound. Humans had taught the settlers far more than building techniques or safety measures. They had taught a new way to live. By now, alien societies had started adopting human practices widely. Community meals became a daily tradition. Storytelling and reading sessions were common in every settlement. Rest and leisure were valued, not dismissed. Children of all species learned to observe, ask questions, and think critically. Even leaders approached problems with patience, calmness, and creativity rather than panic or force. One day, a council meeting was held with leaders from all species. Voktal addressed the assembly. "Humans have shown us a truth we ignored for too long. Strength is not only in walls, weapons, or tunnels. It is in calmness, curiosity, and shared knowledge. It is in how we treat each other, how we care for life, and how we prepare not only for danger but for living fully." The Olin elder glowed softly. "We have seen it. Our pods, though beautiful, were lonely. Our efficiency was practical but cold. Now, life is richer. We eat together, rest together, and learn together. We are stronger in ways we never imagined." A Creedy leader added, "Even our children are different. They explore, observe, and think carefully. They play and laugh. They grow in mind and spirit, not just body. Humans have shown us how life can be more than survival." Humans did not speak much during the meeting. They only smiled and shared a few gentle words. Their presence had already done more than words could. The aliens understood, and the lessons were taking root. Over the following weeks, Terra Nova thrived. Settlements grew, not in size alone, but in richness. Gardens, libraries, communal kitchens, and resting areas became common in every settlement. Communities worked together, sharing resources, knowledge, and joy. One morning, a young, Olin child ran to the humans' area holding a small, glowing plant. "Look," the child said. "It changed color. I observed it and drew it in my notes." The human girl smiled. "Very good. Observing, learning, and sharing. This is how we grow. Keep doing it." Aliens of all species began holding small, learning circles inspired by humans. They shared discoveries, solved problems together, and explored the land safely. Life on Terra Nova had become collaborative, thoughtful, and joyous. Even the storms, earthquakes, and natural challenges were no longer feared. The settlers were prepared, aware, and calm. They had learned to anticipate, adapt, and respond thoughtfully. Strength was no longer measured by walls or weapons alone. It was measured by knowledge, calmness, and cooperation. One evening, humans held a celebration near their recliner. Lanterns were lit, the smoker released the aroma of food, and books were spread out for reading. Aliens of all species gathered, sharing meals, stories, and laughter. Children played freely, exploring plants, animals, and each other's cultures. Voktal watched from a distance. He had led Drakkar for years, faced countless dangers, and believed that strength meant dominance and discipline. But now he saw clearly. Humans had introduced a new kind of strength, one that could survive storms, disasters, and challenges. Not by force, but by wisdom, care, and shared living. He approached a human woman, the first to greet him months ago. "You have changed everything," he said quietly. She smiled. "We only live as we know, but if others see value in it and choose to follow, then life becomes richer for everyone. That is all we hope for." Voktal nodded slowly. He looked around at the peaceful, thriving settlements, the children's laughter, the shared meals, the quiet discussions. It was a new world. Humans had not imposed their ways. They had shown a better way to live. In the days that followed, the humans began documenting their knowledge in more detail. Their library expanded, now including techniques adapted to Terra Nova's environment. Aliens contributed their own knowledge. The library became a shared hub of learning for all species. Curiosity flourished. Young aliens explored plants, animals, and landscapes with careful observation. They experimented with building and cooking techniques. They learned to collaborate, plan, and create. The future of Terra Nova seemed limitless. One day, a minor challenge arrived. A group of Terra Nova's native creatures wandered too close to settlements, disturbing food and structures. Previously, this would have caused panic. But now, aliens calmly observed, followed human guidance, and found solutions. Small fences, shared feeding areas, and gentle guidance ensured that both settlers and creatures coexisted safely. Even this simple lesson demonstrated the humans' impact. Life on Terra Nova was no longer about merely enduring challenges. It was about living thoughtfully, creatively, and in balance with the world around them. Voctal often reflected on the humans' influence. They are not the strongest in battle, nor the fastest, nor the largest. But they are the most powerful in spirit. They teach without force, guide without commanding, and survive while living fully. This is extraordinary. As twin moons rose over Terra Nova, humans gathered under the tree. The recliner held children of multiple species, laughing and talking. The smoker released its gentle aroma. The library offered stories and knowledge from across the stars. Adults shared ideas, discussed challenges, and helped each other learn. Voctal observed quietly. He realized that humans had done something remarkable. They had created a culture where survival and life itself were balanced, and as the stars shimmered above, he whispered almost to himself, "Humans are extraordinary, not because of power, but because of life itself." By the end of the first year, Terra Nova had transformed completely. Alien settlements were comfortable, collaborative, and full of curiosity. The children of all species had grown up learning to observe, think, and share. Communities thrived on knowledge, rest, and shared enjoyment. Strength was no longer measured in walls or weapons. It was measured in hearts, minds, and spirit. Humans continued their simple routines, observing, reading, cooking, and sharing. They never sought credit or power, yet quietly, they had become the guiding force of Terra Nova, teaching an entire planet a new way to live. The aliens now understood a profound truth. Humans were extraordinary because they balanced survival with living, danger with curiosity, and work with joy.